Syracuse special teams was not very good last season, but with a new coordinator in 2025 and Ricky Brumfield, it should be a lot better. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into this Saturday edition of the Locked On Syracuse podcast. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're watching Locked On Syracuse right now on YouTube or you are listening on your favorite audio platform. You know by now that Locked On Syracuse always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, it is the final Syracuse football position preview podcast. We've touched on all the units on offense, all the units on defense. So today's show is all about the special teams. We're going to talk about the kick returners, the punt returners, the fact that Syracuse has a battle for who's going to be the starting kicker in week 1 against Tennessee. But to start off the podcast, we are going to talk about new special teams coordinator Ricky Brumfield and why Syracuse's special teams is bound to be a lot better this year than it was in 2024. All that and more here on today's edition of Locked On Syracuse. But before we get to everything, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, as I stated earlier, this is the final Syracuse football position preview podcast here on this channel. In case you are interested in some of the other Syracuse football position preview podcasts on this channel, you can simply go on YouTube, Locked On Syracuse. In the playlist section, you will see all of the Syracuse position preview podcasts that we have done over the summer. But let's get into today's podcast. It's all about the special teams and the fact that Syracuse has a new special teams coordinator this season. It is Ricky Brumfield. He replaces James Villano. James Villano was with Syracuse for 1 season. Simply put, Syracuse's special teams was just not very good a year ago, and we'll break it down more over the course of this segment and over the course of this show. But out of all 3 of the units last season for Syracuse football, we're talking offense, defense, special teams. We know how great the offense was. It was elite. The defense had some bright moments, but was mostly inconsistent. The special teams was by far and away the worst of the 3 units. Let's talk about Ricky Brumfield now and why he is going to make Syracuse's special teams a lot better in 2025 than they were in 2024. Brumfield was hired by Syracuse back in January, and you can actually go check out that mini podcast we did on this channel as well. He has over 2 decades worth of experience in college football and in the NFL. But the prior 2 years before Syracuse, he was with Georgia Tech, an ACC team. In 2023, Georgia Tech's special teams improved significantly year over year with Ricky Brumfield. I want to shout out now bcftoys.com. They came up with a formula online to calculate special teams efficiency. Georgia Tech went from having the 3rd worst special teams in the country to having the 64th best unit in the country in 1 season with Ricky Brumfield. Now, 64th in the country on special teams is not exactly ideal. It's not something that I'm cheering about. That being said, going from 3rd worst in the country to about middle of the pack in the country is a significant improvement. Now, in 2024, after getting a pretty nice contract extension from Georgia Tech, Ricky Brumfield and Georgia Tech parted ways mid-season. Now, it's unclear why Ricky Brumfield and Georgia Tech parted ways, and I don't really want to speculate here on Locked On Syracuse, but it's important to the story that the two sides parted ways mid-season last year. So what's Ricky Brumfield's task with Syracuse? Well, I think you can probably guess by now what it is, and that's that he's going to have to drastically improve Syracuse's special teams. Last year, using the same formula, Syracuse was 114th in special teams efficiency. That was good for dead last in the ACC. Not only, though, does Ricky Brumfield have a track record at Georgia Tech, improving them significantly on special teams from 2022 to 2023, he did it in one season prior to getting to Georgia Tech with FIU. In 2021, FIU was just outside the top 100 in special teams efficiency. In 2022, Ricky Brumfield is higher, and he improves the team to 60th in special teams. Again, 60th in special teams efficiency isn't exactly great, but going from just outside the top 100 in the country to 60th in the nation is a pretty big improvement. So that's two instances right there of Ricky Brumfield improving a team's special teams significantly in just one season. FIU, bad at special teams in 2021, decent in 2022. Georgia Tech, awful on special teams in 2022. Ricky Brumfield is hired. Suddenly, they're middle of the pack in special teams across the nation. So the bottom line is that Syracuse's special teams is bound to be a lot better in 2025 than it was in 2024 for two reasons. One, it really can't be much worse than last year. Again, they were dead last in the ACC. And number two, as we have shown here on this podcast already with Ricky Brumfield, two instances of drastically improving a special teams unit from one season to the next. What do you think about Syracuse's special teams in general? How much improvement do you think we're going to see in 2025? I'd love your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, coming up, we'll get to the personnel of Syracuse's special teams. Later on in the podcast, we'll go over the kick returners and the punt returners. But first, we are going to go over Syracuse's battle at the kicker position and also how Syracuse has an all-conference punter. Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. And one bet that I'm kind of eyeing right now over FanDuel, minus 114 odds in either direction. Ashton Jeanty, the rookie running back from Boise State, now with the Vegas Raiders, over under 1,075.5 rushing yards in 2025. I'm going to tell you right now, I think Ashton Jeanty is going to have more than 1,075.5 rushing yards, assuming that he stays healthy. He's with the Raiders. He's probably their best option on that offense when you're looking at all the weapons that they have, really. It's mostly Ashton Jeanty. But also the fact that it's a Pete Carroll team. We know how Pete Carroll used Marshawn Lynch, So Ashton Jeanty, I think he's going to have a big year with the Vegas Raiders, over 1,075.5 rushing yards. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Let's get back to previewing Syracuse's special teams in 2025. Syracuse football has a battle at the kicker position. Now, I know it doesn't get a lot of headlines because mainly Syracuse has a quarterback competition. And we know that for the most part, as we've documented here on Locked On Syracuse, there's a lot of positions that are up for grabs, including the special teams and the kicker. There are two players vying to be Syracuse's starting kicker in 2025. You got Jadyn Oh and Tripp Woody. Let's talk about Jadyn Oh first because he's a returning player and a redshirt sophomore with Syracuse last year, of course, and the previous year as well. In 2024, Jadyn Oh had 5 field goal attempts. He only made 2 of the 5, but he was 11 for 11 on PATs. His longest make of the year was 32 yards. Jadyn Oh also attempted 3 kicks between 40 and 49 yards. One came against Holy Cross. That was 41 yards. NC State was a 43-yarder, and Pitt was a 48-yarder. Of course, O missed all 3 of those field goals. Holy Cross. The ball was on the right hash. He struck it well, but it hit the right upright. Against NC State, ball was at the middle of the field. He struck it well. He missed wide left. Against Pitt, ball was towards the right hash, not totally on the right hash though. He struck it well again, but also missed it wide to the left. The good news with Jadyn Oh last year is that he showed he's got pretty good power on his kicks. All 3 of those field goals between 40 and 49 yards, I watched them back before recording this podcast. They were all hit pretty good. They all would have made it. They certainly had the distance to make it, and they just looked pretty in the air. You had the end-over-end rotation that you want to see on field goal kicks, but they just didn't go in, which is ultimately the job, right? It has to go through the uprights, over the crossbar. That's how you ultimately make a field goal. But at least with Jadyn Oh, you know he's got the power. He obviously just has to work on the accuracy from distance. Then you got Tripp Woody, a redshirt freshman and Iowa transfer. We discussed him a little bit on the Fan Hot Take Offense podcast, where I believe someone said they think that Tripp Woody is going to be an All-American kicker for Syracuse football. The reason why this is a hot take, well, Tripp Woody last season did not attempt a single kick over at Iowa. In high school, Tripp Woody was rated the 20th best kicker in the nation per 24/7 Sports. In the transfer portal, where Syracuse got him this year, Woody was rated the 11th best kicker in the portal per 24/7 Sports. Who's going to win the battle between those two, Jadyn Oh or Tripp Woody? Honestly, I have no clue. But what I will say is this. I don't think either of them have a long leash at all. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be yanked after one field goal miss, but this is not a competition that I think is going to be sorted out during fall camp. Obviously, someone is going to win the job for week 1 against Tennessee to be Syracuse's starting kicker. But let's not pretend that Syracuse just has Adam Vinatieri lying around here where you're going to give your kicker the benefit of the doubt for the most part. So until one of these kickers can show that they can make kicks consistently, this is a battle that will stretch into the regular season. That's just my opinion. Comment your thoughts in the comment section below on Syracuse's kicker battle. Now, one position that is definitely not up for grabs is the punter position. It's funny because this player we're about to talk about, he's arguably the best player on the team in terms of accolades. Jack Stonehouse, a redshirt senior, he is actually Syracuse's lone representative on the preseason All-ACC team. He's also on the 2025 Ray Guy Award watch list, which is given annually to the nation's top punter. Stonehouse in 2023 was third team all conference. And last year, he was ACC honorable mention, but he still had a great year, even though he, I guess, regressed from which all conference team he was on. Last season, the important stats for you: he had 10 punts that were 50 or more yards. He had 11 punts that were downed inside the 20-yard line. And he only had 3 touchbacks for the entire season. Assuming that Jack Stonehouse is healthy and has another really strong season for Syracuse, this is someone that will play most likely in the National Football League. So overall, that is Syracuse's kicker position and punter position preview for 2025. And what do you make of it? Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, coming up, we'll discuss Syracuse's kick returners and potential punt returners for the team in 2025. Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Thank you all for making it to this point of the podcast. We still got plenty more to discuss with Syracuse's special teams unit in 2025. But first, since you've already made it this far in the podcast, I hope that means you enjoy Locked On Syracuse. And if so, if you can just do me this favor, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel grow to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And of course, thank you to all those who continue to like and subscribe to Locked On Syracuse each and every day. You all are truly the best. Now let's discuss the kick returners and the punt returners for Syracuse in 2025. Now, it's not necessarily easy to do this. There's a lot of turnover at kick returner and at punt returner. So in order to get a better idea of what it could look like for Syracuse in 2025, we kind of have to go back to what it was last season. In 2024, the primary kick returners for Syracuse football were Yasin Willis and Malachi James. Yasin Willis had 10 returns with an average of over 21 yards per return, and James had 8 returns with an average of about 19 yards per return. Should also mention that Emmanuel Ross had 2 kick returns as well, 19 yards per return. Last year's primary punt returner was Trebor Pena. He had 15 returns with an average of 8 yards per return. Davian Kerr also had 1 punt return last season, which went for 46 yards. That came against Holy Cross. So the thoughts on this season coming up, the one that matters, which is in 21 days now. That's right, just a couple more Saturdays to go. And Syracuse football will be down in Atlanta, Georgia, taking on Tennessee. Can you believe it? The kick returners, Yasin Willis, Malachi James, and Emmanuel Ross are all back with Syracuse football. And there's no reason to believe that those guys would move off of kick returning duty. The only thing that I will mention is that Yasin Willis is due for significantly more playing time on offense. I do wonder how that's going to impact his role on special teams. But that being said, we saw with Trebor Pena a year ago. He was the starting slot receiver. He was among Syracuse's leaders in catches last season and in yards last season. And he was also the primary punt returner. So Syracuse's coaching staff has already shown you that they'll play a player significantly on offense or defense and also on special teams. Meanwhile, Malachi James and Emmanuel Ross are both fighting for playing time on offense. It's a little unclear how many offensive snaps they're going to get in 2025. I have a little bit more faith that Emmanuel Ross is going to see more playing time on offense, especially when compared to Malachi James. But just so you know, both could play on offense as well. As far as the punt returners for Syracuse in 2025, obviously, Trebor Pena is gone. He transferred to Penn State. We don't need to rehash that whole thing now here on Locked On Syracuse. But Davian Kerr is back. Davian Kerr does have one career punt return, which again went for 46 yards against Holy Cross. Perhaps he can step in and be the primary punt returner for Syracuse in 2025. I do want to throw another name out here for you, and you all are probably going to be pretty familiar with the name that I'm going to mention. What about Jonte Cook on special teams as a punt returner? It's ironic because Jonte Cook projects right now to be the starting slot receiver for Syracuse football, which was Trebor Pena's position a year ago. And so not only would Jonte Cook replace Trebor Pena from the slot, maybe he also replaces him on special teams as the punt returner. The reason why I think that this makes sense is because he is an electric talent with tremendous speed, and he's also very shifty. This is someone with very good change of direction. All qualities you need to be very good on special teams, particularly as a punt returner. It also helps that he's a receiver. He's used to catching the ball, especially when it's coming from very high up and it's dropping down. It's a little bit different, but still, a receiver typically is one that handles punt returns to begin with. I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't know if he's going to play on special teams, but I do think that he is definitely a good fit for special teams, along with a big role on offense. What do you think about that? You think that Jonte Cook should play some special teams this season for Syracuse football? Comment your thoughts in the comment section below. I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts for throwing that out there, but given his talent profile, I think he would be an excellent fit at punt returner for Syracuse. If not, Davian Kerr is certainly an option for the Orange as well. Now, as far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future, I don't anticipate there being a podcast tomorrow, but we should be back on Monday with a full podcast. We will discuss the latest with the Syracuse football quarterback battle. So far right now, just a little sneak peek, I don't think anyone right now truly knows who's got the upper hand, but we'll dive further into the quarterback battle on the next podcast. Some other podcast plans for you all, and feel free to give some feedback on it in the comments section below. A Tennessee football check-in. It's not necessarily going to be a preview podcast because we're going to save the full preview for Tennessee week, the week leading up to the game, of course. For those that don't know, Tennessee is Syracuse's week 1 opponent, but we'll check in on them. We'll see their fall camp battles. They also have a quarterback battle going on, so we'll dive into the latest with Tennessee and what's going on there. Also, Tennessee's an SEC team. So one podcast idea that I have is that we take a look at recent ACC versus SEC upsets and try to find some commonalities. We've seen some over the years. Last season, we saw Cal walk into Auburn and win that game. What can Syracuse learn from other ACC teams that have beaten SEC teams that were favored? We'll discuss more later on in the week. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today here on this Saturday edition. Now, for your second listen, you have a few choices, of course. You got the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith. Got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. You could check out Locked On ACC for the latest of what's going on with ACC football in general. You know, the conference that Syracuse football is in. And of course, you could check out Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, diving into the latest with all things college football. In fact, I recently appeared on an episode of Locked On College Football. You could check that out on Locked On College Football on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find Locked On Portal Podcast and Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. And if you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to subscribe. And if you can just do me this one favor, tell one or two of your closest Syracuse friends about the Locked On Syracuse podcast. So, of course, this channel can grow, reach all Syracuse Orange fans. We are just a few weeks away from the start of the 2025 college football season for Syracuse. And this is the place to be for the entirety of this season. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And I will see you all again soon.